Alrighty, folks, we are live for the Memorial Tournament for the Byron DFS show over here at betspertsgolf.com. And it's the Memorial at Murfield Village out in Ohio, Dublin. Murfield in Scotland, Dublin in Ireland, but we're playing in Cleveland. So the land of many lands, Ron.
Well, to correct you a little bit, we're a little bit farther south than Cleveland. I've been through Ohio many times, and needless to say, as a Michigander, not a state I'm fond of. So we have a pretty good rivalry with those guys down there. But yeah, no, this is one of my favorite tournaments of the year for sure. The course is so immaculate, and with every putting metric being easier than the average, I mean, it's going to be the ultimate tee to green test in difficult scoring conditions. I don't know if you've looked at the weather much, but looks like we got some gusty winds almost every day. So definitely a true test of golf. And yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are, but this is a legitimately crazy 3-week stretch on the tour. You have 2 signature events surrounded by a major. So I don't know if there's ever been anything like this before with a 3-week stretch like this.
What is the third signature, Ron, after the US Open?
It's Travelers. Travelers go to TPC River. So yeah.
That just sounds like such a letdown. You know, like they need to have these signature events leading up to the majors. A signature event after a major, it's like hitting a double after a guy hits a grand slam. You know, it's like it's not, the crowd isn't going to get hype over that. You got to have lead up to that stuff. Have back-to-back signature major, boom boom, like 3. I'm sure all the guys will all 3 play in all 3 of those tournaments. But I'm also not a PGA scheduler. I am just here to tell you who is going to win this tournament and how to make you money playing DFS at the Memorial this week. So, Ron, total driving, make sure you got your accuracy and distance, ideally a combination of both. If you're hyper accurate, hyper long at this golf course, you likely stand a bit of a chance, but you have to have your accuracy. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in some watery graves alongside the fairways. Long iron proximity, particularly out the rough, right? Hacking it out the cabbage, as always, and then just making those 5 to 15 footers for par routinely on bank cross screens.
That's it, man. This is a week where tee to green, I think form is everything this week. You could almost say it's a team no putt week. You know, Hideki won here in 2014, losing strokes putting. One of the worst putters in history, Jason Duffner, won here. And you look at last year, you know, Scotty Scheffler lost, almost 9 strokes putting, and he still finished 3rd. So, this is a week where I think you have a group of guys who I'm elevating in my rankings this week, the Tony Finos, the Siwoo Kims, even a Shane Lowry, these guys who are typically just really strong tee to green and who have performed. I think another key this week is, as we always talk about, is looking at past history on long courses that are difficult, strong fields. And, some of these guys who struggle with the putter, I think they have a much better chance this week.
Yeah. Siwoo Kim, I mean, it's TPC Sawgrass and Murfield Village. I mean, those are some of the courses that he has just taken apart in repeated success, So fun to see that. We'll chat about him here shortly in the 7s, I believe. So in the 10s, Ron, let's dive into it here. 4 guys: Xander, Victor, Rory, Scotty. As always, when Scotty's in his designated fields, I'm playing in contests that have less than 1,000 people. And I'm not playing a Scotty at 12.5 with a $6,000 floor. Have I bet Scotty top 5? Yes, I have. And that's just going to be how I'm rolling him out this week. I'm not playing Rory, and I think I'll be going to Victor and Xander as my two guys in the 10s.
Yeah, we're a little different this week. I mean, look, in my opinion, I don't think there's any way to keep Scotty out of your lineup. Like if you're playing maybe a few entries and you're just trying to get really different, I guess, I could understand that. But I just don't think you can have much better a course fit than, one of the most difficult tee to green tests on tour. And so he also hasn't won in a few weeks. And so it's, you almost he's due, which sounds crazy, but I'm playing Scotty. I'm playing him a bunch. I know we're approaching 30% ownership, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets even higher. So there's some interesting fade material up here. I think Rory, I'm going to sprinkle him with my main cores just in case he, decides to, play up to his abilities and actually, maybe win this thing. So definitely not a full fade, but a partial fade of him. And Yeah, I think another guy, because I am playing Scotty, I'm going to have to dip down and kind of skip into maybe the nines for my second guy. Yeah, Xander, look, Xander has no top tens here. Okay, so that might be grasping a little bit. And I don't know if you saw his interview from yesterday, where he's basically admitted he shot in the 40s, in one of his 9-hole practice rounds, and that coming off the PGA win, maybe a little bit of a high, first major. So again, when you're looking at things to try to, reasons to fade, I just think with Victor Hovland and Colin Morikawa sitting there right below him, at 1,000, even more of a discount. For me, it's going to be a week where I haven't done this. I don't know if I've ever done this ever, but completely fading Xander this week.
Wow. I mean, I can see it, Ron. And just looking at his presser, he seemed cheesy. He seemed overly confident, like he's like, I got that I told you so face on. And when I have that face on, usually something bad is on the horizon, like I get a little too cheeky and the world hits me with, hi, I'm here to tell you that you're not the only thing that matters in this world. So getting into the nines here, though, Ron, you mentioned Victor and Colin. If you start with them too, and I'm a big fan of doing this, and in fact, it's probably going to be my ultimate strategy with, as many lineups as I'm doing. Victor, Colin leaves you with 4 guys left with 7,550 or something, 7,500. If you do Scotty, you got the exact same price tag. And you have to add now 5 guys into that lineup with $7,700 or $7,500, right? So that's the fun part about playing these guys that are much cheaper than Scotty. You can do like a 2v1 type situation or a 2v2. Like, who's going to be better? Scotty plus one other guy, that's $7,500, or Victor and Colin kind of thing. Like, yes, you can maybe throw in an 8.5K guy in with your Scotty lineup, and then you have to go into the sixes, but that's the world we're living in, and it's an interesting way to go about it. So in my contest, there's less than 1,000 people. So I like my chances that someone with a Scotty lineup won't have the optimal 5 guys. I will always preach that, and I'm waiting for it to kind of pay its dividends for me. Other names that I will be playing if the ownership for Patrick Cantley keeps on drifting, I don't mind him. Ron, there's places you play Patrick Cantley, RBC Heritage, the Genesis, and here, if you just filter on his track record there, no matter really how badly he's playing entering the week, it's beautiful. Like the track record at this place, it just speaks to him. So I'm in on Patrick Cantley, and I think he's going to be a nice leverage option at a golf course that we've said, the course history is very sticky, So if you've had repeated success, it's likely going to happen again, despite Patrick Cantley kind of struggling right now. So those are my 2 guys here in this 9K range.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think starting your lineup with Victor and Colin is a great strategy. I think when we get to some of the upper 7, 9K range, or the upper, kind of upper sevens, that's going to be, we'll get to those guys, how I'm going to fit Scotty in. But yeah, I mean, Victor, sharp turnaround last 2 events. He's kind of back to his elite levels, literally gaining 16 strokes ball striking in his last 2 events. It's, the Joe Mayo reunion tour, he was 3rd at the PGA, won here last year. His short game is also always better from thick rough, when you dig into the numbers compared to tight lies. And so that's something that you can easily look up on the rabbit hole, and you can compare different time frames, different rounds. So, yeah. And then Colin, of course, he's been much talked about this week. He's going to be highly owned. But his upward trajectory right now, like 3rd, 9th, 16th, 4th, he's got 2 top 5s in majors already this year on somewhat similar tracks as this week. And again, gained 7.3 on approach in his last 2. So we talked about on this show many times how his approach game has not been up to par. And it seems like he's turned that around. And then you look and he's gained 8 strokes around the green last 2 weeks on difficult rough courses as well. And so you add in the perfect ball flight for Muirfield with his classic fade. And so, yeah, it's really hard not to play Colin this week. And yeah, my last guy kind of that I completely agree with you. Like Patrick Cantlay, you talk about a guy who's desperate for a win. Seeing his BFF Xander get his first major, and he's got the best history by far at this place, gaining 2.6 strokes per round in 28 career rounds here with 2 wins, 2 more top 5s. And, unlike Spieth, Jordan Spieth, who definitely faded this week, Cantlay has actually played well this year. Like you said, at the courses he's always performed strong at. Even Harbortown, he was third. Riviera fourth. Pebble, he was still 11th. And so I think 9-4 is a pretty fair price considering, when you throw in the course history, but his form has not been great. So, and then finally for me in the 9K, I've got to play some Hideki. I just think 9K, whenever he's 9K or below, and whenever people are maybe not down on him, but, I don't think, I'm not saying really high ownership.
No.
So I just think it's a week where, he ranks by far the best around the green player for me. So in the world. And so you throw his potential with his, long iron play. And again, in a week where putting, typically doesn't matter as much, I feel very comfortable playing him on these long, difficult tracks. And I think 9K is actually a pretty decent value for what we could see from him.
Yeah. I think with Hideki is we've got this tentative, what are we getting from you again situation, after some WDs and things like that. We're back. It's just someone needs to make a flow chart of Hideki. Like, okay, we're in this portion of the cycle right now where we're wondering if he's injured or not.
But these are the weeks where he pops though, where people are, 10% ownership, 9%, like, man, it's.
But Ron, the week before a major is also like the scary part about Hideki. Like I will rather just let him beat me this week and then let him take care of my US Open future on him next week. So we'll see what Hideki can get up to. I do agree, though, theoretically speaking, Hideki Matsuyama, wonderful course fit for this venue, health depending. In the 8s, Ron, I'm just going to mention right away, Wyndham Clark is, yes, in my lineup. What are we doing single-figure digit ownership here on this dude who, by the way, is finishing inside the top 5, like 1 in every 4 starts that this guy plays. So I understand the form has got a little off the last little few starts, but we've had a long break. We went through a very stressful or bombastic, like very cluttered schedule the last little bit. I think he's found some respite in the tranquility of this like schedule that we've gone through now. Jesus, I struggle to get that out of my mouth there. But what I'm trying to say is he's had a chance to reset, and now he's coming back. We know what this guy's upside is at this price. Like if you go Victor, Colin, Wyndham, you have got some serious upside there in that categories there. So I'm a big fan of him, especially at ownership where, in a 70-man field, Ron, it's going to be hard to find that leverage opportunity. So if you're getting single digits on a guy who, in all honesty, if they price Wyndham Clark $9,400, would you be shocked? Or say like 10,000?
Yeah, I could easily see him be higher this week just because of the small field. I know his form isn't good at all, which is why people probably won't play him. But yeah, like agree with you. Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead and hit me with your 8s.
Yeah, and like you're saying here, I think this is the range. If you include Hideki, I think this is kind of the area where you can get some really good leverage on people because, like you said, Wyndham, I'm seeing 8%. So Max Homa, he's another one who, when you look at his recent performance, I know he's grinding on the range with Mark Blackburn, his coach, trying to figure some things out with his swing. So when you look at him, around 8.5%, 9% as well. Again, sitting there at 8.7. Again, these are the tracks that he just, you go back and you look, and this is the course that fits him. Obviously, he's got I think he was 5th and 6th here in his last 2 trips. So, look, if he can find something this week, and again, when you do look back and he is one of the guys who the week before a major, he typically does tend to play well. So he's a guy who I think with Wyndham, and not saying you should play them in the same lineups, but look, you could get some serious leverage if you pair both of them together. So that's just an idea especially if you're multi-entering. For me, the rest of this range though, there's some very interesting names, especially as you get to the low 8s. Like Ben On is someone who, I love his tee to green game here combined with his, past positive history on these long, difficult courses. If you look at his round log this year, he's literally had only a few bad rounds, spread out throughout the year. And, one of the most improved players on tour this year, he lost here at this course to Bryson in a playoff in 2018. And so just strange how, putter has become like a weapon for him on certain weeks. And, one of the best total drivers in this field. His high ball flight, I think, is going to be really important into these firm greens. Also a great wind player. So again, we got wind coming into play this week, and another guy kind of related to that. Like when you get down here to 8-2, and I see Matt Fitzpatrick, and there's certain boxes I kind of need to check in order to play Fitzpatrick. And if it's a long and difficult course and he's below kind of 8-5, like for me, not saying that's an auto play, but just with the potential that he has, and kind of if you look at his results, they've been inconsistent, but yeah. he gained 3 strokes ball striking at the PGA, and yet he lost 3 strokes putting. And so don't expect that to continue. I'm going to chalk that up to just a bad week on the greens. And so I think he's another guy sitting at right around 10% that, people really aren't excited to play. So yeah, this is my range where I'm going to be loading up on some of these guys, trying to get some of that leverage for this week.
And if you take a look, Ron, at what Fitz has got up to at Murfield, it's like he's the ultimate GPP play because it's top 5s or nothing. Like it's very weird. He either vibes or he does. It's like to have that kind of a track record at a golf course like this that's so predictive is really interesting. But what you're going to get from Fitz is 2 things, good or bad. I don't think you'll get anything in between. So we'll see what he can do. Before we get there, though, Alex Noren, have to mention his name. If you're looking for a safe-ish guy who's not going to finish better than 5th, that's the guy you're looking for Alex Noren over there. So, and obviously, everyone gets in on him last week. I bet him top 20, and he misses the cut entirely after finishing like top 24 in 8 straight starts. So, fun times. I think it's a good time to get back to Alex Noren for those of you that didn't play him or did last week.
And what about your guy, Thigala? You haven't mentioned him yet. No?
I didn't. Yes, I'm in. I've bet him outright.
Okay.
I think it's just, Torrey Pines, Bay Hill, these kind of places. This is where I think Sahith he thrives everywhere. It's just, to me, he's just an auto play when you in the 8s, when you 40-1, when you 45-1. I can do Sahith at that price. Like if we start getting in the 20s, if we start getting closer to 10K, then different situation. But I don't mind him in as my 2nd or 3rd guy in lineups at all. Very, very spiky guy. So
I want to hear your thoughts on 2 other guys, because these are 2 guys that, like right now, I'm fading. So what are your thoughts on Russell Henley and Sam Burns?
Sam Burns, yes. No doubt about the fact that I'm fading Sam Burns because shows up here. I mean, how many guys from the Canadian Open even qualified for this event? Like that's what I'm trying to get to some people's heads is, yes, he played well last week, but that was a wedge-intensive golf course. It was a golf course that can play easy if you found the fairways, and it was a field that wasn't very strong. So now you've got 2 of those things for Sam Burns that are completely opposite. Very strong field, very long iron-intensive venue. So I'm out.
And listen, on one of the things I put in my model this week is on tee to green on long courses, he's 55th best in this field. And if you look at tee to green on difficult scoring courses, he's 37th best. And so when I see those, like he just doesn't play well in these situations.
It's weird. It's majors. It's these big tournaments. It's surprising that and if you think about all his wins, Ron, the Valspar, like that's not the best field in the world. Match play is a tough field, but you only have to beat 1 guy at a time. It's just like, it's all the places he's won. It's kind of like a Xander track record prior to the PGA Championship, right? Like it's these weird wins that don't really have the best situation there. So I'm right there with you. Russell Henley, I'm okay with. I don't mind him actually as a DFS option, Ron, because
at 19%. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, I wasn't even looking at the ownership. No, that's ridiculous. Like that's a situation because what Russell's doing is the spike stuff now. He's no longer Sex Panther 60% of the time. He's inside the top 20 all the time. Like that's not what Russell Henley is anymore. He's now this top 10 guy or nothing. Like it's this weird situation where he just shows up or doesn't. And I think at that ownership, I'm cool leaving that alone. In the 7s, though, there's other options that I'm going to be playing in a big way. Keegan Bradley. I don't really care what the ownership is. If you're driving the ball as well as he is right now, Ron, it's at a level that's like elite. It's like I've pulled guys that have gained strokes off the tee, 12 of them in 8 consecutive rounds, and there's like only a handful. And it's like Rory McIlroy, Cameron Champ, and Keith Mitchells. Those are the guys that have done it like repeatedly. And now Keegan Bradley's doing that kind of stuff. So it's really impressive what he's doing off the tee. at a golf course that if you can get that domino falling in the right direction, the rest of your game can spill over into good, successful stuff there. Siwoo Kim is interesting, Ron, because recently he hasn't quite popped and got up into the top of the board there, but this course history is incredible. Incredible. So I feel like you got to almost got to bet him and don't play him in DFS because I think he's going to be too popular again. You know, these cheap guys in the sevens that are chalky, you got to make your decision. So what are you doing in this range? Are you going to like a Willie Z instead, a Tom Hoagie maybe instead, Sepp Straka? What are we thinking?
Yeah, my favorite play down here is Tony Finau this week. And so, yeah, and of course, you know, we talked about demands an elite tee to green skill set. I think he fits perfectly here. You look at his last 5 events, he's gained an average of, 1.54 strokes tee to green. And so, yeah, some of the easiest greens on tour for putting, you combine that with his past history on difficult scoring courses. Again, his main weakness with the flat stick is going to be mitigated somewhat. He's finished in the top 13 in 4 of his last 7 trips here. He's got consecutive top 20s in his 2 most recent starts. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily think he's going to win, but I just think this is a course that I think some of his upside is going to come out this week. And so I think very similar to Shane Lowry, he's 5th best approach player in the world if you go back and look over the last few months. And so, yeah, similar to Finau, even Siwoo Kim, again, I think his weak putter is going to be kind of mitigated here. And so if you look at looking at the rabbit hole, bent grass is the only surface he's actually positive on. And, you look at his results here. He's got 3 top 16s. He just finished 6th at the PGA on bent greens, and he actually gained over 9 strokes putting. So, again, looking for spike putters this week. And then, like you said, Siwoo, 4 straight top 18s here. He's gained ball striking in 9 of his 10, and just an amazing tee to green game. Ownership, sitting around 17-18%, so that is climbing.
And likely climbing higher.
Climbing higher for sure. Yep. Yeah. And 7 trips here, though, Siwoo's gained with the putter 5 times. So, I think that's very intriguing to me. I agree with you on Keegan. I think Jason Day is interesting at 7-6. This is his type of course. I know he hasn't played well here, even though he lives right on the course from what I'm, going back and reading about. So I think the interesting play for me this week, it could be the value of the entire week. You have Will Zalatoris sitting here at 7,500. So definitely concerning, how he's kind of trending down with his recent ball striking. Even his around the green has gotten even worse. But again, I always come back to when I look at his combined performance above his baseline, when you get to these long, difficult courses, it's just really hard to ignore his upside here, even with, his poor recent numbers.
Ron, I am in love with Will Zalatoris in all markets outside of the outright market, because I think I was in on him at the PGA and was a little disappointed, but I think that was the first time he's played in a major that kind of got to -21. That's not his style. I think if it stays out of the teens score-wise winning, we can see Will Zalatoris definitely rock and roll here. So I'm a big fan of him, and I bet him top 5, top 10 as well, because you're getting like 11-1 for a top 5, on Will Zalatoris. Like that's
crazy.
3 or 4 times what Scotty Scheffler is to win this tournament, So I know Will isn't doing what Scotty's doing, but they've got this, we know what Will Zalatoris does and we know his profile. So this is the week to get in on him. Let's party. By the way, Jason Day, Ron, since 2010 has gained on approach around Murfield once. Can you believe that? That's incredible. So fun little nugget there on Jason Day. I'll also be playing some Tom Hoagie love there. Some other options as we kind of scoot out of this board is Mackenzie Hughes, Steven Yeager, and Kurt Kitayama, all in this bottom range, all have some skill sets that can get them out of trouble. Mackenzie around the green, Steven with the driver, and Kurt with tons of distance. So love these dudes. In the 6s, Ron, let's do our thing, yeah. 3 picks a piece, and let's party. You go first this time.
Let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I have to mention this guy. He's 7K flat. Actually 2 guys. I think Kurt Kitayama, when you look at just from the rough, okay, obviously guys are going to hit in the rough. You have a greens in regulation, only about 55%. And you look even the fairway accuracy, guys are going to miss. So, he's the second best player in this entire field when looking at 175 plus yards from the rough. And so, Kurt Kitayama, we've seen him at Bay Hill win. So I think this is a course that fits him very well. And so he's a guy that I definitely have my eyes on. I think you're trying to play Scotty Scheffler in your lineups. I think Kurt Kitayama has proven that he can play in these elevated events. And I think this is a great course for him. So he would be my first guy that I would take. So.
Yep, I totally agree with you there, Ron. I don't mind starting in the 7s either, because I think, you're getting really good value on Kurt Kitayama for this is fun because Murfield is a unique, it's like a puzzle piece that only unique guys can fit on, so I'm a big fan of sticking guys that have the skill sets required to succeed here. And another guy that is that kind of way is Taylor Moore. He's $6,800. He's playing some really good golf this year. He's got tons of speed off the tee, distance-wise. He's good there, tidy around the greens, nice and cheap at $6,800. We've seen this guy pop up more times than we want. I don't mind him at all. And then I'm going to double dip on the Taylors here. Taylor Moore, Taylor Pendrith. Give me more Pendrith, more Taylor. Let's see what we can do. Same situation. Nukes off the tee, playing some good golf right now is Taylor Pendrith. And it's just routine top 20s for him almost right now. So Taylor Pendrith is playing some really good golf, Ron.
He is. And I think for me, I'm going to, this is a guy who, I haven't played much in the past, and I'm seeing around 9-10% ownership, which again is a little scary when you get to this bottom kind of area. But I think just looking at the consistency of Lucas Glover, who is 7K flat again, he's missed 2 cuts in the last 11 months. Like his level of consistency has just risen. And it's weird because, he changed putters, as everybody knows, and, he got better. And then if you look at his recent performances, he's kind of still had some struggles. But then you go look at the Charles Schwab, a couple weeks ago, he's had a spike week. He gained 7 strokes with his putter. And so, we all know what kind of ball striker he is. And so I think this is a course where even his around the green play is just really, if you look at even over his last 10 tournaments, he's averaging, over a stroke per round. And so he's a guy that I think, is probably not going under the radar as much as he did in the past. I think people are starting to catch on to Lucas Glover, but he's definitely a guy who, I'm going to be playing a lot of this week.
Yeah, he's sneaky. I don't know how I feel about him being a cut maker in a 70-man field that only like 55 guys are kind of making the cut in anyway. I'm looking for a bit more upside from my dudes. But again, like you said, the putter is starting to show some life again. Maybe he's found a bit of confidence there. So who's your third option here, Ron?
I'm going to go Austin Eckroat. I think this is another good bounce back spot for him after, just missed a cut at Colonial. And so 30th here last year, very accurate off the tee, great long iron player. So I think this is a guy who kind of similar to Taylor Moore. I do like Taylor Moore as well. I think he's got some upside that I would not be surprised at all to see Eckroat. We've seen him sneak into the top 10 a bunch here recently. So I love Eckroat.
I'll take that as a name you can mention, Ron. I'm looking for a guy that's $6,500 and cheaper. Since you've gone 7-7, I think it's time to dip in the 65s and below.
65s and below. All right.
Third guy.
I'll go, and he's a guy who's getting mentioned a lot around circles this week, but I'll go Lee Hodges, 6,500. He's a guy who, has shown that he can kind of spike on certain weeks, top 20 in my model this week in approach. When you look at par, let's see here, bogey avoidance, he's top 25. And so I think down here in this range, I feel very comfortable as kind of one of my mainstays in this range.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm a big fan of Lee Hodges as well as Seamus Power. As always, now my boy's starting to find some form again. He hurt me last week, but you know what? That was a bit of a weird, that RBC Canadian Open, it's all over the place, like trying to make the cut there in that tournament is quite something. So I'll just forget what happened north of the border, hopefully returning back to his native state of Dublin. Seamus can take care of business for us there. So another name I don't mind, though, is I think Matt Kuchar is starting to find some form, Ron. I haven't been a Matt Kuchar advocate lately, but I think we're starting to see some stuff from him. He qualified for the US Open, I believe. So, we're starting to see some stuff from Matt Kuchar. So I think I don't mind him. So, but my 3 guys, Taylor Moore, Taylor Pendrith, Seamus Power. Those are my boys. I'm going to ride with them and go all the way. So awesome stuff, Ron. What else is going on in your life for the rest of today?
Yeah, again, we've got, if you haven't checked the rabbit hole yet, we've got a little deal where you can get half off, use code SUMMER50. And yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet for either weekly or monthly, we've got a good stuff with Underdog. Ryan Noonan put a great article out there. I'm looking at some edges if you are on Underdog or if you've never tried Underdog before. So yeah, we've got, DraftKings article, all that good stuff coming out later today. So yeah, looking forward to kind of watching ownership, see what happens. And it looks like, with the win conditions, everybody's kind of teeing off. Nobody's starting on, number 10. Everybody's teeing off from 1. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, what the win does and how that makes things maybe even more chaotic this week.
Yeah, I think, Scotty's going to win this thing by 6, Ron. Like, I'm going to try and find a book and just try and see what I can get the odds at. But Scotty Scheffler to win this thing by 4+. Whatever the maximum is, I might start betting Scotty Scheffler just to win tournaments by the most you can get offered and parlay those two together, because I'm curious to see what he can do. Anywho, there we go. That's the Memorial Tournament for the Byron Show over here on Betsperts Golf. And we really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button on the way out. Don't forget to subscribe too. And we will see you guys next Wednesday for the US Open. It's going to be a fun time. But with the wind blowing, don't forget to